Mike Owens with Inside Fighting here, and it's always a pleasure to be joined by Beneil Dariush, who returns to action at UFC 311, facing Renato Moicano. Beneil, always a pleasure, my man. How are emotions ahead of your return?
Yeah, thanks for having me, brother.
How are your emotions ahead of your return? Because the last couple of times we spoke, we've obviously had the layoff, so I imagine a lot of anticipation to get back.
Yeah, I'm stoked, bro. I mean, to just get back into the octagon. It's been a long time. I'm looking forward to it. You know, pretty close to being done with camp. We're a little bit under 4 weeks, so everything's feeling really sharp. Weight's coming down. Very happy right now.
I will say I do always feel a little bit sorry for the people who are booked on the early to mid-January cards because that means that certainly for Christian fighters you have to go through certain sacrifices throughout over the Christmas period. Talk to me a little bit about what have been some of the challenges or difficulties going through camp over Christmas.
Y- Yeah, so like it's been there's definitely some rough ones. Like Thanksgiving, obviously I like to eat in general, but
Mm,
like Thanksgiving is a hard one. Christmas is not too bad because like it's more about gifts and well,
mm,
not in our house. I don't really care about gifts, but like
mm.
it's for us is more celebrating, the birth of the Savior and all that stuff. So I don't worry too much about food, but everybody likes to bring food. So um, I would say Thanksgiving is the hardest, but I also have I like to do like at least once a week have something different. So, but my weight's been pretty it's been kind of giving me a hard time until recently. Like the last couple of weeks, it finally started really dropping down. So I actually took a day off and I was able to eat really good yesterday. So I didn't even check my weight today. It was that good of a day. Let's just put it like that.
Well, that's good to hear. Two questions I've got on this is one, will you train on Christmas Day? And secondly, how big does the Christmas meal portion look? How big or small is it relative to a normal meal?
So, yes, on Christmas training for sure. I'll
Mm,
probably get some, drilling in, some running, whatever, something quick so I can be done for the day, right?
mm. Yeah.
And then, the calories are the same basically. I get a little bit less than 2,000 calories a day, which from what I hear is actually more than a lot of other athletes. So, I can't complain.
100%. As I mentioned at the start, you're facing Renato Moicano in just over 4 weeks' time. Out of interest, what was your first reaction when the name Renato Moicano got given to you?
I mean, it's a good name. He has a good streak going. There's nothing I can complain about. He's a contender. I'm really looking forward to this fight. This is going to be a great fight.
Um, Renato had, when you think about the title level of fighter of the year, you probably say Alex Pereira and Ilia Topuria, but I like to look at the guys a level below that. And I suppose when you look at Renato's 2024 of beating Drew Dober, Jalen Turner, and Benoit Santini, a great year for him, not only professionally, but also in terms of his growing his portfolio as a kind of star and all of that and his brand. Did Renato Moicano's 2024 change your opinion of him by any chance? Oh, your phone's fallen.
Sorry. Um, I always knew he was great. I've seen him. I've seen him compete, and I knew his skill set. He's had some setbacks, but I knew how good he was. Um, I think when it comes to Hanato, everybody likes his interviews. If
Mm,
anything's changed, I've grown more respect for him.
mm.
I appreciate and I like to see what he says after the interviews. He always has great interviews. So, um, skill wise, I've seen a growth in him. I think he's been able to better strategize his fights. He's coming in with better strategies and he's been winning. And I think that's been a big key to him. And then on top of that, the interviews. So I think that's really been the big thing with Moicano is better strategy and fantastic interviews.
He's more than likely called you easy money at some point because that kind of is his go-to catchphrase. Out of interest, do you look at Renato Moicano and see this matchup is easy money for you?
Brother, I've never had easy money. I don't
Yeah,
know.
true,
I don't
true.
know what he talks about when he says easy money, but I've never had a fight that was easy money because my camps are brutal. By the time I get to the fight, even if the fight is by some people's standard easier than others, it was still a brutal camp. So there's no such thing as easy money here.
When you look at this matchup stylistically, what do you look at as the keys for success that you have to implement in order to get the victory?
So I know he's gonna have a great strategy. I
Mm.
just have to be more well-rounded. I think that's the key to winning this fight is going to be being more well-rounded, and no matter where the fight goes, having an edge. Because I really don't know what option he's going to choose. He has so many options, and I have to be able to answer that, and I have to be able to put forth what I want to do as well.
100%. Um, I did see you mention in another interview that if you didn't win this fight, there was the potential for retirement, which when I heard that, I was incredibly sad to hear because I do love chatting with you and watching you fight even more. I guess is that at the forefront of your mind going through this camp, and does that change your motivation at all?
No, I mean it's not like I don't know. I mean, if I can't win fights in the top 10, I'm gonna have to move into the top 15. And then if I can't win, it's like if I'm not able to compete, I'm not able to compete. I'm just being honest with myself,
Yeah.
it's not something that puts more pressure on me. I know people are like, oh, this is gonna he's putting more pressure. It's not really a pressure thing, it's just an honest thing. If you're
Mm.
not able to compete with the best in the world, that was my whole point of coming here, was to compete with the best in the world, fight in the UFC, and become a champion. So, and if I can't do that, then I can't do that.
Is that just based upon how the last couple of fights have gone, or is that something external?
I mean, that's fighting. Like if you're not winning, you're losing,
Of
and
course.
so if I continue to lose, you know, I that was the upper echelon of the division, and
Mm.
I didn't perform well. So now I have an opportunity to either get back there and try again, or go further back. And so if I continue to keep falling further back and I can't get back, like if I can only stay outside of the top 15, I don't want to fight.
Mm.
I don't know how much more I can explain it where it's like, if I'm not if I can't be the
Yeah.
best, I don't want to do this. That's always been the goal. And I know people are like, well, we still love seeing you fight. We still like to, want to see. It's like there's so many other things I could do besides fighting. Um, and if I'm not trying to be the best, it's not worth it.
One more question I have on this, and then we'll talk about something else because I want to get your perspective as a fighter. Because as someone who doesn't train, who doesn't fight professionally, I often hear this thing about if you've got one foot out the door, then you may as well retire. Do you buy into that theory? So I'm not necessarily saying that that's you at the moment because you're being very clear with your intentions, but do you buy into that theory that if you have one foot out of fighting, then it's best to get out?
So you're saying like if you think about retirement, right? That's like you shouldn't even fight kind of deal, right?
That's what I
That
often I often hear that rhetoric of if
yeah.
you've got one
So
foot out the
like
door.
physically, I don't feel like I want to retire. Spiritually, mentally, I don't want to retire. I want to
Mm,
win. But
yes.
if it's like if I can't win, then obviously, I don't have it anymore. So I don't think it's the same because like the
Yeah.
idea of retirement isn't in the back of my head. I truly believe I'm going to go and win, and I'm going to continue to fight. But if I don't have the ability, then then I
Mm.
have to have a conversation.
Yeah, no, but I wasn't talking about you specifically. I just wanted to get your thoughts based upon because I hear that rhetoric quite a bit, so I was interested to get your
It's
opinion.
hard for me to say because I'm not really that's not my mindset. So I
Of
can't
course.
say. But if I was, like if I was like, man, maybe I'll retire. No, I want to fight again. If it was one of those things, then I can give you a better answer. But I think in general, like if you're considering retiring, like yeah, maybe you should quit. I don't know, bro. I'm not there yet, to be honest with you. So it's a hard answer. I don't got it for you. I think a good person to ask would be Cub Swanson, right? Because he's
Mm.
like right there. He's like, I don't know if I want to keep fighting or if I want to, you know, uh, sail off into the sunset. It's one of those things.
Well, I suppose completely flipping this question on its head, that last question on its head, Hanato's come out and said if he beats you, he thinks he deserves a title shot.
Yeah,
On the
I
on
mean,
the sorry.
7 fights in a row.
Mm,
Who else in the division is going to have that many wins in a row?
mm.
So I think that makes sense. I don't disagree.
So I suppose on the flip side, if Hanato deserves a title shot based upon beating you, then what do you think a win of Hanato Moicano does for you?
Yeah, it's tricky. I've had a 7 fight win streak. I've had a 8 fight win streak, and I didn't get a title shot. So I don't, I'm not gonna be like, well, I didn't get it, so he doesn't get it. I think he deserves it. But for me, I think I would have to win a few more fights.
Mm. But I do always think it's interesting when a fighter gets booked on a card where the title fight will be fought later on in the night. Is that any extra motivation seeing Islam and Arman, the guys who are facing off for the belt that you cover, fighting
Yeah,
later on
yeah.
in the
You know,
evening?
that happened before for me with Charles, and Charles fought
Charles and Justin.
no, Charles fought against Islam, and then I fought Gamrot. So
Oh yeah.
there's definitely something there. It's fun. So
Mm.
there's definitely something there.
How do you see the main event going out and what do you think are the keys to success?
I believe it's gonna be uh I'm leaning towards Makhachev, but it's like this. I believe he'll win in the like later rounds or a decision. And if Arman wins though, it'll be earlier on. So I think that's how the fight's gonna
Mm.
go. So I think if Arman can pull it off early, that's gonna be his win. If not, it's gonna be a longer night, and I think Makhachev will win.
I watched their first fight back today actually, and it's such an interesting fight because for such the longest time that was the seen as the fight that the first guy to kind of push Islam, and for such when he has that such a dominant streak, probably up until the first Volkanovski fight, that was seen as the fight that had given him a real test. Is there anything that you feel like Arman can take from that first fight and bring into this one as a competitive advantage?
Um, so long ago. I think if you look at Arman's mentality in that fight, that's the right mentality. Take the fight to him, right? I think that's what he should do. So I think that he could take that from that fight is like, hey, when I took the fight to him, I won. Like he won I want to say people, was it the first round he won,
First round.
according to the judges? He went out there and he went hard, you know. He went after him the first round. So I think that's something he could do.
When you look at Islam as a champion, and I don't ask this question based upon your skill set or anyone's specific skill set, what would you feel like are the keys to implement for a game plan to have success against his style? Like, what would you need to do generally to defeat that style?
You, I think the most important thing starting out when you fight Makhachev, you have to meet his feints. He does a lot of feints, a lot of fakes, and if you don't meet those, he's going to be able to push you back, and he's going to be able to put pressure on you just with that. And if you can't meet that, then you know it's kind of a downhill fight
Mm,
or an uphill fight. It's for you. And you know, so but if you can start to meet those, you could start to see his reactions, what he wants to do, and ultimately to be able to beat him, you have to be very well rounded, you know. Um, and I would say specialize in striking because if you specialize in grappling, he specializes in grappling. It's going to cancel out. But
mm,
if you're good enough to grapple, like you have good grappling, but then you specialize in striking, I think you could put more pressure on him.
100%. There is a certain featherweight champion by the name of Ilia Topuria who is threatening a move up to the 155-pound division. How do you think he would fare in your weight class?
I think he would do well.
Mm,
Do I think he'd be champion? It's hard to tell. You know, there's a lot of good guys at 155, and he would be giving up size now. You know,
mm.
but I would love to see him at 55. To be honest with you, I got no problem with him coming to 55. One more guy for us to compete with.
I thought it was interesting as well, rather than calling out the champion, he called out Charles Oliveira for his lightweight debut. Did you like that? Him going for a clear test in the lightweight division before going for that, trying to get that title
Yeah,
shot.
I mean, it's a good way because you know, yeah, I'm surprised he didn't ask for Makhachev because he might be able to get it. I mean, Volkanovski got it, so maybe he
Mm,
can get it too. But yeah, I don't know. I would have Charles, but then again, Charles is he's such a big name, bro. He's such a
mm.
legend in our sport, so it's not a bad call out at all.
Yeah, I agree. So, turning the conversation back to you for my last couple of questions. Obviously, the focus is UFC 311 on January 18th. Assuming we get the victory or you get the victory January 18th, what of the rest of the goals for 2025? Where would you like to be, say, this time next year?
I just want to be a little bit more active. I'd like to get one or two more fights, and then you know, just keep that momentum going. So I don't really have a particular name or anything like that, but I would really like to stay active. And I think if I'm active enough, can make something happen.
So, turning the conversation back to the actual fight at hand, you can be as brief or as detailed as you like with this question. But for one final question, give me a walkthrough of what the perfect fight day on January 18 looks like as you go from morning to night. Talk me through the perfect day.
I think a perfect fight for me would be able to kind of show all my skills.
Mm.
and show that I'm better in basically in every aspect. If I can do that, it's a good reminder, not just to Moicano, but the entire division in the world that what I'm capable of. And we haven't been able to see it the last couple of fights, but I have that ability.
You say about a reminder to the world. Do you feel like people have forgotten about you, or maybe not showing you the respect that you deserve?
It's not a respect thing, but as far as forgotten, yeah, our sport
Mm.
moves fast. Like,
Mm.
people will forget pretty quickly, like what you did. So I'd like to remind them, like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still a title contender, and I plan on being a champion. Like, nothing's changed for me.
I love it. Well, Beneil, thank you so much for your time as always. I appreciate you doing this on Christmas week. I'm sure you've got a lot to do, especially with the kids. So I hope that you have a great Christmas and an even better rest of the camp, and best of luck for the next fight.
Appreciate it, brother. You take care.